Yay, it worked. Okay, now you're all live. So now you should all say absolutely everything it takes to get judged by randos on the internet. Here we are. Okay, so
Okay, there it goes.
let me take down the privacy screen. Boink. Okay. Oh, I didn't bring my little guy up. Let me bring my little guy up. We're gonna do this all right, and that includes my little guy. Where's she at? There she is.
Going big screen.
Okay.
Bam.
All right. I think the last thing I ought to do just to make sure this is all hunky dory. Let me just get that chat on here, and then I will make sure that the link to the stream is sent out where it needs to go, and we're good to go. Let me just
Cool.
chat. No, view, doc. Come on. There's that. And where? There you are. Properties. Thank you for bearing with me as I boomer my way through this. Okay. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, and here we are. I am Gross Girl. You can also call me by my name, Maya. And I am a freelance illustrator and comic book enthusiast of sorts, sort of, kind of. And I've been asked a lot through multiple people to share how I do my layouts and just prepare for a comic, and so that's what we're doing today. I just want to clarify, while I am a while I am a professional artist and I do make a living doing this, and you know, I am currently working at a professional capacity for a comic book. Uh, I'm very self-taught. I'm super self-taught, and I've never worked for a company. And so the standards that an experienced comic book artist might abide by are not necessarily what I'm going over today. So if you end up talking to a professional at some point, because that's just the pathway you're going on, and they say something different, just add my things to your repertoire and pick and choose the things that work for you. Yes, hello, cat. No, you are not welcome on my lap right now. Thank you. Okay. He's very pushy. That said, that doesn't mean that I don't think I have anything valuable to say, otherwise I wouldn't have it, as a stream. It's just, companies sometimes have standards, and freelance artists don't necessarily abide by those standards. And the weird thing about comics is that there's not really a standard. There's a lot of different methods and techniques to approach a lot of different aspects of comics, and a company may have their own proprietary, this is the template we use, this is the page size we use, this is the standard, whatever. But in researching for myself, that was one of my frustrations. Looking up, like, what size is a comic book page? And you'll see like 3 different answers. They're all just like millimeters off or inches or whatever. So it really just depends on what you want, how you're doing it. If you're physically publishing, or if you want to plan to give yourself that option in the future, these are all things that matter because it lays into what kind of paper you're going to use when you're putting out your layouts, and that changes the shape and the approach of your panels. So let me take off the privacy screen. I think I haven't done that yet. Where's OBS? What am I looking at? What is my life? Oh, it is off. Look at that. Look at me paying attention. Okay. So, what you're looking at right now is this image that says average American comic book dimensions. And it has a couple of definitions on here that I think are pretty important. Let me scroll down a little bit so you can see like the whole... Oh, I can't scroll down. That's okay. You can pretty much guess where this is at. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, I'm sorry to say that I cannot post links, and so I cannot share this image. It's just because I'm not verified enough for YouTube's needs. But those of you who are in Dan's Discord, I did post pretty much everything that I'm using in the resources tab, so if you want to follow along and look at that, just feel free. But otherwise, I got this from a website that I will be bringing up in a little bit here. So it's Saul Goodman. Saul Good Sam, my bad. Saul Good Sam. They're a really helpful website, and we're going to get to that in a sec. So what we have here is the main components of a page. Just the plain blank paper for if you are making a comic. And this counts for canvases on your programs as well. This is really important to know what these are. Mostly if you're planning to print this ever. This will not necessarily be the same if you're doing a Webtoons vertical style. That's not something that I do. That's not something that I am educated in. And I'm not going to make comments on how to approach that because I think it would be unhelpful from me at this time. Not that I'm against it for the future. But the red line, the outermost line, is your full bleed. Basically, if you want something that in the book or on your screen is going to go all the way to the edge of the page, you just put everything all the way there. So if I were to want to have like black ink all the way across, that's what I would do. The green line, the middle line, is your trim line, which is essentially if I take this to somebody to print, they are going to cut it roughly there. The reason why the blue line, that innermost line, exists is that's your safety zone. Anything inside of that line is not at risk for accidentally getting cut off, because if you're going to trim something for paper, it sometimes shifts in the machine. I don't know if you've ever tried to like cut a lot of paper at once before, but it warps, it shifts. Sometimes things are just not aligned properly. So that's your safety zone. Anything inside of that is not going to get cut off. It's not going to go to the edge of your paper, and it's not going to be an issue of any kind. Those of you in my YouTube chat, hello, welcome. I am doing this live, so feel free to say hi. If you have any questions throughout, I will try to check in with everybody in chat at some point, but I've got a lot to say and a lot to cover, and please forgive me, I am a very verbose teacher. So, moving on to the next image. This is a different kind of template. This is what we call blue line. This is what a real paper would look like. This one I got from, I think this is also from Saul Good Sam. Yeah, which is pretty great. This is huge. Saul Good Sam has templates you can work with and is very useful. And you'll notice that it has a different number of lines and different things on it. So this one with all the stuff kind of jutting off of it, that's your bleed. The next one in, you see like here at the corner, how that lines up with that corner right there like that. So that secondary line through here, that's your trim. This is your safety zone right here, that third one. This is your super extra safety zone. This is no super extra safe. So these are just what your margins are. Different companies will make these in different ways. You can buy paper with this pre-done on it. Blue Line is the company that I'm most familiar with, and it looks a lot like this. It's pretty close. But you'll notice that there's no panels on it, because that's up to you to do, and that's what we're going over. So, personally, I like having that extra safety area, and when I pull up my page that we're working from today, I will show you exactly what I mean. So, if you're not sure what sizes to use, what dimensions you want to work with, where you want your margins to go, or how big you want your gutters to be, which is that space in between your panels, I think the easiest, safest way to do it is just to go to a printing company and use one of their templates, because the chances are that pretty good that it's fairly safe. Like if you use one from Saul Good Sam, it'll line up enough with something from Comics Wellspring, even if it's not exact. If your art is safe, then your art is safe. That's the most important part. So, this is Comics Wellspring. They are also pretty fantastic. This is actually what, for those of you friends in the chat who have been following, Ryan Gutierrez has been doing his Kickstarter for Black Marrow 2, and he's doing a physical copy. This is the company that he's used, I believe, for this one. I know he did for the first one, and that's how I learned about these guys, is because he and I were chatting about it. And they've got all these templates, and all these different sizes. They have manga sizes, they have novella, they have standard, one of the many standard American sizes, like Silver Age, Golden Age, Modern, all sorts of things. Their comics Wellspring standard here is nice. Personally, for the project I'm on right now, I'm planning for it to be this one, perhaps even this one, because I like the wideness of it. It feels very booky, but that's a personal choice. All of these will function. You just got to know what you're doing, and each of these has another additional kind of thing to it, which is I don't know if it'll help me. Can I just open this up? Where downloads. There's a little thing where we download images. Here we go. So this one has an additional safety guide, which is right here, your perfect bound books. Basically, if your book is going to be bound with like that glue, I think is what perfect binding is, where it's just like a really streamlined looking, like, you know, clean paperback. I believe that's what perfect binding is. So knowing where your left and right is going to go. I think it might also have to be something to do with splash pages, but don't quote me on it. This is worth your own research. I just want to point out that there are different kinds of things, and if you're going to print, you got to check it in with who you're communicate with the person you're printing with. They will tell you. So, the next thing that's really important to know before we start layouts is oh, here's comics. It's all good, Sam. PNGs. This is really good information. This whole thing. So it's all good, Sam. Page templates. Check them out for sure. So I'm gonna move right on though. The next thing you need to know is, are you working from a script? When I do my own comics in my own time for my own funsies, I don't write a script. I'm just not a fan of it. I'll outline. I'll write down ideas. But as far as like page 1 interior, I don't really do that. But some people do. A very good friend of mine is working on her own comic right now, and she planned out everything, including doing her script. So having one available can be helpful. But if you are working for somebody, they have a script. And you need to know this because sometimes the way the script is written may or may not give you very important page layout details, whether it's, I need this to be an establishing shot, or writing the script specifically to have how many panels per page, because sometimes they'll give you some leeway. The script I'm working on, working with right now for the execution of all things, which is what I've been freelancing over the last roughly a year, he doesn't do that. It's just written out almost cinematically, where something like DC will have things like, page 1, panel 2, panel 1, stuff happens, panel 2, stuff happens, and they'll just go for it. So then you have to also plan out, okay, well, Steven wants me to have 6 panels on this page. How can I make it look interesting? It's now up to you to be the Tetris master to give it some meaning and purpose. So, with that in mind, we're gonna get past all the boring stuff and get into the interesting stuff of like actually doing this. So, for today's kind of lesson, I'm gonna use this script, which was written by my partner Wilson many years ago. You can maybe hear him behind me. You may also hear my cat. I'm sorry, he's just completely zooming all over the place. But
it was a spec script for Archie. It never went anywhere.
essentially, this is just a. Sorry, my cat. Wow. It's I lost my train of thought. I'm just gonna work on this one page, page 16. I'm jumping ahead quite a bit because the context of the story only matters so much as I'm teaching, and I like this page layout, and I want to work with it. So page 16, and he has 6 panels, fantastic, and there's a separation between the action of each panel and the dialogue. You can see it looks very different from the DC one. The DC one almost looks an awful lot like a film script. So you are left to your imagination to some degree, right? You're left to your own problem solving. All art is problem solving. And I think comic art especially is problem solving, like an awful lot, because there's more hands involved if you're part of the streamline of doing it, or you're playing solitaire. It just kind of depends. So, before I move on to the art stuff, I just want to give a moment. Does anybody have any questions, either in the YouTube chat or in Discord chat?
I was wondering if you knew offhand if that comic site that you were just showing, do they do single runs so that you can test things, or is it? Do you know if it's just by bulk only or anything like that?
So Comics Wellspring, I haven't done a whole lot of looking at their products. I did see that when it comes to their comics, you can get 20 units, and that's your minimum. And it was the same for this is for standard Saddle Stitch. It was the same for the customized, because I was looking at this earlier. And then I believe graphic novels. Graphic novels, thank you, UI. Yeah, it's about the same. This here, pretty sure this is what perfect binding is. I also could be mixing it up with something, but I'm pretty sure I'm right. Anyway, so I think you may be able to contact them and ask, but if you just want a single print of something, I don't think they do that. They do sample. Like, if you're going to buy in bulk, they'll send you a proof, but that's like an approval thing and not a, I now have one book thing. If you want
Right.
I now have one book thing, there are places that do it. I believe Arts Cow, if it's still around, does it. You might even be able to do it with, like, novelty, like, family goods stuff, like, I think Amazon does it. A couple of, like, memorabilia sites, I think, do it as well. Let me check the
Cool.
YouTube chat and make sure I'm covering all my bases. Okay. Broken Blade. I do the Marvel method. Very good. Is there a UK version of this site? This one, I don't think so. I believe they're an American company. But they are not the only printing site. There's also, I think it's called Kablam or Blam, but I think they're American as well. I'm certain that there are other ones in the UK. All you gotta do is look up comic printing, graphic novel printing, manga printing, anything like that. You'll come up with something. Throw a Dart. It's a very niche specialty thing, but they want to exist, and they do it through sheer willpower and the finances of people like us, and it happens. They do exist. So, I'm gonna go ahead and take my script and scooch it to the other, there we go, to the other screen. So, I have a couple of examples of other comics kind of showing off just the different ways that these pages look. Like, Dark Horses looks so weird to me. I would hate to work with this. Marvel's looks pretty much exactly like what we were talking about earlier, but I'm gonna keep these on hand for now so we can talk about panel shape in a little bit. But firstly, here we go. I have my comic page. I'm using this one. Because this one does not have that interior safety zone that I was talking about that I prefer, I did go ahead and make myself a guide. You can see I've added, that comes in an inch from all sides of the paper. If you look at your canvas, or my canvas in this case, you'll see that the angle, this is such a weird thing to point out, but the angle that this comes in on the corner here is not the same as trying to find the center of the whole page. So if I go corner to corner of the actual page, if I want to find the center of this rectangle, bam, there it is. And let's pretend like I did a good job. Bam, there it is, right? The reason why I'm pointing this out is because, again, when I got really confused at the very beginning of learning how to do comics and find margins and whatever, I thought that I had to do it this way to keep it, like, super in ratio. Don't even worry about it. It's really easy to get caught up, and the only reason why I'm bringing this up is because I've talked to other artists that got really caught up in the margin and the size paper and the standards and whatever, and I just want to clear it up. Just do it from the edge, and it's fine. This is 11 by 17 paper, sort of. It's technically 1650 by 11, but it'd be the same, really, if I were to take 11 by 17 paper, if I'm doing this physically, or if I'm just making my own. Just come in for an inch and you're fine. If you ever look at physical comic art anywhere, especially like old school guys, they just do it that way, and it's never been a problem. So just a quick simplification of things. So I have my comic page. This is my safety zone. This is where I'm drawing. And Clip Studio does this thing with the frames where if I draw inside of here, it's going to stop at the edge. I would highly recommend in this stage, don't do that. Have it outside. Give yourself the ability to go outside. It'll just help you keep track of, you know, is something squishing in? Do I need to draw? Like right now, I'm in a different picture, in a different drawing. I'm trying to do a spaceship, and I need to like keep parts of it poking out because it gives me a proper crop. And it's just it keeps you from squishing. It's just good etiquette. It's helpful for you. So whatever. So I have my script. And it says, panel 16, there are 6 panels, and the description of my first panel is Proto-Man and X are walking towards a steel boss door. Proto-Man keeps talking to X while X stares straight in front of him, his arm turning into a blaster. Okay, so there's a few actions in here, but we can find a good kind of idea here. There's dialogue. There's 2 dialogue bubbles I'm going to throw in here, but they're pretty small. The next one, Proto-Man enters into the mining station where there are carts. There's things around that shows that it's a mining, you know, room. And the camera, it indicates we are looking at our 2 characters. So somebody's talking from off screen. Great. So that's something else I need to know. I'm not going to read absolutely everything because it's going to take forever. Yeah, I'm just giving you the gist of what's in here because it's going to inform what I do and why I do it. Panel 3, the author wants me to make sure to include a full body reveal of the 3rd character in the scene, which is the boss Armored Armadillo. He's a pretty big and imposing looking character. Not massive, but bigger than our main dudes. There's a couple of other little guys kind of running around, so I need to make sure that this panel is going to be big enough that I can show that without it necessarily being crowded. After that, it's a reaction from our 2 main characters, followed by Armored Armadillo begins to walk towards X, his back straightened, so he's being menacing and moving towards our main characters, and the last one's a close-up of his face. Okay, so I need to prioritize some things, right? So looking at this script, let's see here. So walking towards that door. Okay, so how about I try this? I have establishing panel. There is big door. Cool. My 2 characters. I have in my notes, because I've been talking to my author, you know, big quotes, theoreticals here. We already have designs for these characters, and so I know that one is taller than the other. So I'm not making this up on the fly. I mean, I am for this, but, you know, at this stage, if I were sitting here doing this on my own, and it's a freelance project, we have these designs already, for the most part. Or at least some idea. Sometimes I will make things up on the fly. For my own stuff, I often do, just because I think it helps me design it to have context. But that's a me thing, and that's for funsies. You don't always have to have everything totally planned up before you start. Maybe, unless you're working for somebody. So, let's see here. And it's... somebody's turning their thing into a blaster. Okay, so this seems a little far away to show that, so I'm going to get rid of it. Alright, so perhaps, what if we're big door, and I can see, okay, cool, he's holding up his hand, and it's changed to blaster now, and he's like, yeah, something's up, this is Mega Man X. And so he's going to have, like, the gem and stuff. And then maybe I have the secondary character, Proto-Man, just sort of like looking around. Like, wow, so who's this guy? And that is the dialogue. It's, okay, I got a question, who the hell is this guy? And X answers Armored Armadillo. So cool. I want to make sure that I am including an idea of where I'm placing these word bubbles as I'm doing this. For this stage, this is about as detailed as I'm gonna get. I'm just figuring out where I want things to go. Maybe I'll get a little bit more like, okay, I want this low. Maybe I want to make sure that I can see some of the details pointing this way. But the goal is that I don't want to commit to anything. So if I'm sitting here spending time on it and going like, well, this is the best picture of Proto-Man I've ever done in my life, I don't want to then find out I have to change something, but I spent 3 hours on this and I like it, and then trying to make it work or feeling awful I have to start over or anything. It just wastes time. So right now I'm just getting the idea down. None of this matters until I decide that it works. So, moving on, they're entering it, and so we're seeing it from their perspective. Okay, I think it's pretty safe to say that having the door opening and seeing them through it would be kind of cool. So that's what I'm going to do. Ba, 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 ba. And you'll notice that I'm not really setting up the actual rectangles for this either. To me, I like to prioritize the composition of what I'm doing before I commit to a shape of the panel. For simplicity's sake, I'm pretty much exclusively sticking to rectangles and squares. Some people like to get a little fancy with like diagonals, or what if it's a circle or whatever. I think you need to be comfortable with doing what works before you have room to play. Especially if what you are playing with ends up being unreadable. Remember that your comic page has a fluidity of reading. For an American comic, I'm doing this Z... Oh, can we have a color, please? Thank you. We're doing this Z motion, right? So if I suddenly place something over here, but I'm supposed to read in a weird order, it's not up to us to throw in a little arrow and say, no, read this one first. So I try to make sure that what I'm doing is clean. Ba-ba. So if I'm doing, okay, door opening, maybe I should show a little bit of the edge of the door and then walking through it. I feel like that's kind of a jump. If we're this far away from the door and suddenly it's behind them, that doesn't work. Okay. So I want to be clear too, I'm coming up with this on the fly. I didn't plan any of these layouts before doing this talk. So you're watching me in it while I'm in it. Let me see. Because there's still 5 more panels I gotta fit in here, and that's about halfway down my page, roughly. So I want to be very, very careful. Tell you what, I already know that I want my last panel to be very dramatic. I feel like a wide panel for this close-up. For the, you know, armored armadillo. Here's his nose. I think I like that. I could see it working if I split it. So there's like him walking here and then the close-up. That might actually be better. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this because I love that, but you got to do with what works with what space you have. The other thing to keep in mind while I'm doing this, I'm not just going, well, what tells each panel? This whole page is telling a story. Each panel is then also telling an individual story, which is really weird. It's like a story within a story within a story. But what the story is for panel 1 is that they have dialogue and they're walking in a direction. The next one is they are now going into a new room while they're still talking. And then the next one is going to be the reveal of this new character. So it's all ramping up in context of the writing to something very tense. And so I want to make sure that this last panel either is impactful or leads to the next page to be impactful. It's kind of the Junji Ito thing where he sets up a jump scare on the next page by getting it really tense first. So the answer to an action does not have to be on the same page. That can be at the next one or in a previous one. It just kind of depends on what the script's like or what your plan is, the effect you want to instill in the reader. Which is a little bit instinctual. I definitely kind of vibe code this, if that makes sense. So, let me see here. There are panel 2, they enter a large mining station. There are carts strewn and rails strewn. It's a very messy mine shaft. They're surprised, looking upward. Okay, so I think if I put whoa, and oh geez. So this feels too similar to the first panel to me, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to, oopsies. There we go. I'm going to shrink them. I'm going to move my camera. Each of these panels is their own tiny TV. They're their own shots. So in film, there are shots, scenes, and sequences. A scene is made out of a series of shots. A shot is, a camera is doing its job between cuts. So if I have like something happening here, and then I cut to something here. This is one shot, this is one shot, this whole page is a scene. The reason why I'm using film terminology is that's actually kind of where I started. I wanted to get into animation, and so I learned a lot about storyboarding. They are not the same thing as comics, but there's a lot of overlap. So if I would do better to show the door, here it is maybe opening, okay? Now it is open and we're through it. Because the camera has switched sides, I believe... Let's put Mega Man here. Oh wait, no, he's not happy. Maybe he's at the ready. Ah, it would be his other hands because I established this arm is the one. Blaster. He's already suspecting something. I think that's fair to say based on the script, so I'm gonna just have him ready. And I know that Mega Man likes to hold his hand when he holds the Buster up. And this particular version of Proto Man is kind of haughty, and he's like, what? I don't know. What is happening? Okay, and he's got like a cool scarf, so bam. Okay, so that's my layout for that one. I think that works. Okay, cool. So, third panel, full body reveal. Oh, that's very small. That doesn't work. If I do a whole body reveal of this character, and I have to keep zooming out to make sure I'm looking at this at the size that the comic's actually going to be, because otherwise I'm just going to get lost in the sauce. I'm working at this at 11 by 17 at 600 DPI. That's a lot of pixels. So if I'm drawing something this small, and I zoom out to where somebody would be reading it, it's nothing. Absolutely nothing. So, I can remedy the situation. I know that I want these panels to be on the same bottom and top level because it keeps the page clean, so I can probably get away with just making these larger. And go. There we go. And then prioritizing a little more this guy over here. Okay, cool. I think that reads pretty well. And he's like, rawr. Super angry. I'm a professional. Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so now I have to fit 3 more panels in these last space. Okay, so fourth panel. Proto Man's face rises into a smirk and X steps in front of Proto Man. He's speaking seriously, conspicuously keeping his blaster at his side. Okay, so perhaps my placement that I was so very proud of does not work here. Okay. The panels it does, but the pose does not. And the dialogue here is something snarky from Proto Man, something very police-like from X, and from off-screen, Armored Armadillo saying something very curt. He just says, "Save it." Like, and you know what? I think I was right about my final 2 panels. That still works for me. I can get away with moving some things around at this stage. If I shrink the height of the top panel and scoot up this whole row, it'll give me a little bit more room for these two. So I think I'll probably do that. So while I am transforming this horrible doodle page, does anybody have any questions? Let me take a look at chat. There we are. Okay. Marvel method, different country, different code. Okay. All right, cool. Sounds good. All right, does anybody in voice chat have any questions at this stage?
Nope, all good.
Okay,
Just following along.
cool.
Hey, one question.
Yes.
Like, would you do like, if you're working with a client, is this like one pass? Would you send them this, or would you do like a tighter sketch before you send it off to them?
Oh, I tighten it. So the way that I personally function is, I will send to them something that's not quite finished pencils, or really close to finished pencils, if they're not already actually done. because at that stage, it's read more clear to them. I can't assume that they can tell what I'm doing here. Like, you guys are in the know what's happening because I'm verbalizing everything. But if I send them this, they're going to look at this weird snowman astronaut here and they go, what is that? So, absolutely not. I will show you what I will send a client. How about that? I will show you the loosest that I'm willing to send a client. Let me see here. That's not pages. Okay, so here's a page of my own personal comic. If it loads. It's trying. Oh, there it goes. Okay. All right, cool. Let me reacquaint myself with these layers real quick. Actually, yeah, that's pretty good. Whoa. Let's keep that docked. Okay. This is pretty loose for me. Some of these ended up basically becoming the ink. But not by that much. So this is probably okay to send. What I would want to do in sending this to a client is also include the text if I'm doing the lettering. If you're working with a client, lettering and bubble management, there's a different word for it. I just, you know, again, I'm pretty loosey-goosey on all this. That's somebody else's job, unless you already established that it is your job. Because it's a whole other sort of a thing. Personally, my philosophy is that the word bubbles and annotations and then the boxes and things are part of the illustrations that make up the whole page. So you have to be careful of how you plan them compositionally. So if you're planning something and there's something really important, let's just say like up here, there's, I don't know, like an alien, because his job is to like read his mind. I can't put a word bubble there. So you need to plan each of these like they're their own composition in a manner that works also with the page. So this works because it's leading down. I want to have all this space over here to show off that there's a graveyard, so I have these floating and I think it looks cool. So it's all just a matter of clarity. It does not have to be finished pencils unless that's the type of job you're doing. If I were working for Marvel, I feel like maybe these pencils wouldn't be very good to show. But I'm not, and it's okay. So in another example here, just to keep things relevant, I will share the pencils for a page that I already streamed doing for Execution of All Things, because I want to make sure that I am keeping with my somewhat NDA with that. Let's do this page. This is a good one. So this one's inked. If it'll load. There it is. Ah, this was a different version of it. Okay, so it's not fully inked. That was a panel that I needed to fix. I already did in a different file. So again, let me just reacquaint myself with the page layers things here. I used to divvy these up per panel, and I thought that was actually very disruptive and annoying, so I stopped doing that. Let's see here. There it is. So these are pencils. Some people might argue that it's good, like, I could probably finish this and just make it black and be done. I felt maybe not so much. I have since learned to loosen up on my pencils, and I would recommend that you guys do too, because some of this is pretty tight. Some of this is not, obviously, like, this is really not tight here, but this I also would, and did, give to a client. And you can tell that I did because a lot of things changed too. Like once I actually got permission to ink, we went through some edits and changed up her hair and her position. So I needed to be careful about that. So communication ends up being key like 99% of the time. So I'm going to go ahead and kill that. Do not save. Dear Lord. and I don't need these anymore, so let's get rid of those too. I guess I don't really want them. I thought I would use them. I did not. So, let me make these adjustments here. Ba, 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 ba. Oh, and Madara, just to answer your question from the resources tab in the Discord, yeah, feel free. Download those if you want to. It's just stuff for you to use. It's just the page templates that we were talking about earlier. All right, so I need to move this one up like I said I would. Oopsies. Come on. Okay. And I will move this one a little. There we go. I think I want to make it taller. Yeah, so it doesn't just feel so weird. Because I think otherwise the impact of the other two bottom ones is probably still fine. Maybe I'll move these a little bit. Okay, great, cool. So this is loosey-goosey, but done. So what I'm going to do now, and this is what my next stage would typically be, now that I'm fairly happy with what the panel layout's going to be and the general gist of the content, I'm going to take a moment to actually finalize my panels. So whether you're working on analog, so you're using pen and ink, or if you're using a different program so you don't have the same panel management system that Clip Studio does, doesn't matter. You use what works for you. You get a lot of creative decision making when it comes to doing your panels. I would still recommend keeping it simple because the comic page is not about the panels themselves. It's about how you manage the fluidity of reading this. Panels are a lot of things. Panels are camera movement, they are pacing, they are storytelling, they are helpful with enabling how you provide mood and atmosphere on things. It really just depends on how you utilize them. So it's really important that you keep their actual makeup simple and clear so that you can use it to support the impact of the storytelling for the page that you're doing. So play later with confidence. Do functional first. Learn functional first. Where is the tool I'm looking for? There it is. Okay, so I want to divide my border. So this is gutters. These are gutters. The spacing in between your panels are called gutters, and the things outside of your panels from the edge of your paper are your margins. Now, there may be some standard gutter size that a company will use. I've seen some people will have the gutters going horizontally a different size than the ones going vertically. I think a lot of that's probably preference. I personally don't like it, so I personally keep them equal. I think this is the size that I like. The black line is not really in the way. It's not taking up too much space. I feel pretty good about this. One thing that can be helpful in laying in the actual shape of your panels is knowing where your halfway lines and quarter or thirds of your working area is, because sometimes it's really clean to line something up in the center, but it does not have to be. I just want to be really clear. It gets really easy to just have sort of perfect bam, and great, I have 8 panels here, and they're beautiful, and they're even, and they're the same. It works for some things. It does not work all the time. I would argue that it doesn't work most of the time. Comics historically used to look like this, where it's just perfect squares, and perfect squares, and perfect squares, and it wasn't until, I want to say, like the late 50s into the 60s that they started to shift a little bit. It might even be later than that. I need to recollect where it started to shift, but it was a while before they started to look like they do today. So the way that I choose as I'm planning these shapes when I'm in that doodle phase is what fits, in my opinion, camera movement. So, for example, this top page or panel, I wanted to establish the door and the characters, and I like that they're in the foreground. It feels like a camera pan to me. It's sliding across, the background. We're moving with them, and that's why I liked it for this. But this long horizontal panel does not always have to be that. Sometimes it's about making a character come off like they're feeling a certain way. So maybe having this big long panel and one character like way over here might make them feel really lonely. It can work the other way too. It could be the other way around. Or perhaps I want to establish a particular scene that happens to be really long. Maybe there's like a big snake moving across or something. It doesn't have to be a pan. Maybe it just works with the movement of the character and not the camera. So you just want to kind of think about the effect that it brings. So the next one being more rectangular, just a reaction to the previous one. It's fine. It's utilitarian and it works. The height of this one is because of the height of this one in this case, because I wanted this particular panel to have a particular effect. So I think I don't need to change that. I'm happy with that. Okay. The next one, I picked the wrong tool. There we go. Now, when I do the bottom one that I'm going to split in two again, I could line it up to be the same as prior, because it's kind of clean and it's a little bit not symmetrical, but feels like it. Or I could keep it asymmetrical and kind of scoot it over. I'm an asymmetrical person. I think that this is far more interesting, and that's the only reason why I'm doing it in this case. There can be a reason to do that. Maybe there's like a poetic, like, oh, it's repetition. The context of what's happening in these two panels is similar to what's happening in these two, and I have a reason to do it that way because it works for the scene, it works for the story. Maybe it adds a little quirkiness that you like. If it's appealing, go for it. If it doesn't work, try changing it up. So I have this. It is now at this stage that I'll start to commit to my pencils. I'll really sit down and draw out as much as I can and get it to be as clear as I can. While I work, I will regularly kind of lean back and keep looking at the page again just to see, okay, does this makeup still work? Can I scoot something over? What if I make this panel doing this thing? What if I feel a little bit more quirky, perhaps, and I feel this way about this top one, or this bottom one, maybe I do want to play a little bit on an upper panel. There we go. Maybe I want this one to sort of float a little bit or shrink. But I think for the sake of keeping things clear, it's good to consider that later and use them less often. I think because this panel here is very much a zoom in on his face, like very, very cowboy, I could get away with being a little bit like funny with it, whether giving it sort of a drop shadow or thickening it up, giving it the cinematic upper and lower. I could. Especially if I'm not planning on coloring it, you can play with it a little bit more, in my opinion. It's not something I should do a lot. It's something that I don't think you should do a lot. But if it feels compositionally interesting and it's part of the illustration as a whole, because this whole page is an illustration made up of illustrations, you can do it. It's just my particular opinion that you should learn to be comfortable with just this first before you start playing around like that. Once you get there, it's good. So this would be the stage I start my pencils. I want to open the floor up one more time, because this is it. This is layouts. Any other questions? And follow-up question from me, do you want to go through pencils together? Because my next workshop tomorrow is going to be on inking, and I was going to use this page. I'm actually going to work on this page and get it done either way. So I can keep streaming and share that if you want to, or I can find a good stopping point for you guys. How are you feeling?
If you wouldn't mind, just for me personally, I would benefit from the pencils process just for my own knowledge for future personal projects, and also sort of tangentially with illustration type things, just because my process is a bit scattered, and sort of seeing like how far you would take a pencil before committing to that's the drawing and then taking it to ink. I sort of have a habit of just once I draw a thing, that's the thing. I don't have that intermediate step, so seeing how other people go about that would be useful.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. I shall keep going. I'm gonna check on YouTube chat real quick, see how that crew's doing. Madara is also wanting to do pencils. Agastra, would copying layouts from similar themed comics be okay? I'm doing a Conan themed comic, but have all my panels in squares, like Hal Foster's Prince Valiant. How could I improve this? Okay, so I am a big proponent. Proponent, is that the right word? I think it's good to steal. I think you should be a dirty little thief. I think you should be careful how you're a dirty little thief, because there's a difference between seeing how somebody else does it and mimicking it and plagiarism, right? So, if you think somebody's panel layout for a page works for what you're doing, give it a try. Like, you're doing this for your own benefit, right? Like, you're learning from this. So, one of the things I tell some of my students when I taught to do was if they're and keeping in mind that most of my students were children, so their hand-eye coordination was still very rough, and there are plenty of adult students who still have that because maybe they've never drawn as much, or they're rusty, or they want to know how somebody else controlled their pencil and it's different than how they do, and so getting in their head helps. So what I would tell them to do is steal a pose, find an illustration that you like, mimic it, but turn it into something else. And you do this for your own study and your own benefit. What you're not doing is then posting it online and saying, this is completely original all the time. So I think tracing can be very helpful. I think mimicry is absolutely very helpful. I think if you find somebody else's panels to be useful, then try doing a breakdown of it. Do similar illustrations per panel, or draw the page as it is and see if you can get into their head. So long answer short, do it. If you want to learn to be more comfortable with doing less stagnant square stuff and more, rectangle-ness or what have you, there's a couple of different things you can do. The first is just doodle around and try and see what works. If you don't like what you did, you still learned something. You still learned that it doesn't work, and you can kind of take some time to figure out why. And if you do like it, same thing. Try to figure out why. Why does this work? Why doesn't it work? Can I do something better? What if I do this? And it can be really easy to get stuck in this idea of, like, there's so many answers. What do I do with myself? Just pick one, do it, and assess yourself after. Assess the work after. And that way you can just say that you did. So another way that you could practice this is actually a storyboarding practice. This is where I get most of my energy from for paneling. The storyboard practice is to watch a movie or a show or something and to break it down into storyboards. The main difference is that, let me turn these all off here real quick because this is actually pretty important. The main difference, storyboards, you can move the camera, you can move the characters, you can do a whole bunch of things, but you cannot change the shape of the box because it's animation. It's for TV, or it's for or it's for film, or even if it's live action things get storyboarded too. The ratio that it's being presented in does not change because it is a TV or a screen, right? So what kind of this does is you have to learn how to create some of the other versions of the technical paneling that storyboards do, right? Like, if you're going to pan, you need the whole illustration, but you need to showcase where the box begins and ends. But you can do this with comics too. So the idea that I gave earlier of, well, I mean, in my mind, the camera is panning in this, and you're a director, I'm a director, everybody in chat here, if you're interested in creating stories, you're a writer, you're a director, you're a filmmaker, I'm sorry. I know that you don't have a camera, but here we are. But you know what a pan is. It goes from point A to point B, and if I want a character to be moving in a certain direction, this long shot, even if it's big, or if it's vertical, can be used for that. In a similar vein, the different shapes of a panel will give you a different effect for the same image. In the same vein, if you have the same shape, but you move the character, it also gives a different effect. You have more moving parts in a comic. And you can get away with moving the camera more often. You can get away with switching sides. It can get a little confusing sometimes. So if you're going to be showing your backgrounds, it's good to have something that will help to kind of guide the reader into knowing what's around. So like, let's say I've got this little vase here, and then in a different shot I have the same vase. It's like an anchor point, right? And you can do multiples of these. So that's one way to help keep track of your camera while you're moving. It's good to know camera rules when you're learning how to do panels and you're translating things or whatever, such as like the 180 rule, where like if I have two characters and they're interacting, you want to be careful with where you put your camera. So if I have like, I have Lisa, I'm going to give her a bow, and I have Stanley, I'm going to give him a bow tie. Okay. All right. So I want to be careful with how I place them in my scene, because if I have them together but separate in these two panels, and then I establish the next panel over here, and they're talking, without having any way to indicate where they are in relation to each other, there's nothing prior to the scene. If I have Lisa suddenly over here and Stanley over here, it's a little jarring, especially if I'm assuming that it's in the same direction. You want to be kind of careful with where you present it. So if I establish one character is taking up space in one area, maybe here, I want to make sure that if I'm going to switch what direction they are, I have some kind of neutral. So let's say, and you'll see this in movies a lot too, maybe he's walking and talking, like, yeah, and now he's like monologuing. So he's moved, he's walked from these areas, and now I can freely move them around. So I use a lot of film logic for how I establish storytelling. And there's a lot to go over and a lot to chew on. I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but this is going to end up needing to be kind of a multi lecture thing. And I would also argue that the more you do it and allow yourself to be wrong, the more likely that you're going to actually find a lot of good answers and good experience as you do it. Because like I said, I intuit a lot of this. So let me get back to the plot at hand, which is pencils. So let's go ahead and get rid of these colors. Yep. And I'm gonna get myself a good drawing color. You do not have to do your pencils in color. You can draw them however you want to. You just want to make sure that you are future-proofing yourself to making inking later on, if you are the one inking, easier. So if I do all my pencils in black, I will want to change the color or lower the opacity later. I don't know why I'm gesturing with the artwork here. But I like to draw in blue when I'm in pre-production. It just makes me feel fancy. But also because it helps me feel detached from being polished and finished. If I draw in blue or in red, which is the tradition, digitally I like blue, traditionally I like red, but it's a mindset thing for me. It might not be for everybody. So let's see here. So that was quite a ramble. Are we set for pencils, or does anybody else have a question?
I'm all good.
Okay, cool. Awesome. And please let me know if anything sounds confusing or if it's a bit rambly, because I feel like I had a lot of this pretty well put together this morning, and now I'm sitting down and I'm talking, and I can hear myself talking, and I'm rambly. So, let's see here. Madara, I appreciate advice copying and making panels. Cool. Yeah. And the idea of doing things that way is strictly to add to your tool belt. It is not to claim other things as your own. You are learning. Let's see. Trying to make notes of major plot points. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If you're planning on writing, outline. Always outline. Even if you are not going to write a script, you should outline. You should know where you're heading, because it's easy to get lost and to just sort of keep going. So always outline if you're the one writing, even if you don't make a script. Okay, so I'm gonna get to it. I'm gonna set this to multiply because I like it when it gets darker. That's a pretty good size I can deal with, and I'm gonna make this even lighter so I'm not just staring at gray doodles. Let's do... Bleh. Okay, so one thing I like to do when I'm doing my pencils, because I'm doing this digitally, I have the elbow room to do this, essentially. There's much wider breadth of forgiveness for error, but so I don't lose sight of things, I will double up on previous versions of things. So I have this, I will save it. I have this, I'm going to do my pencils directly on it. So I'm just going to make it less dark. Yeah, okay. The reasons why I like to do that is because it feels like I'm working with pencil, and if I'm working on paper, I would be working directly on it, and so the eraser and the sculpting of it is, for me, helpful. So I'm not going in totally blind. So, for the sake of this, what's the word I'm looking for? Example. Anyway, for this, I am using Mega Man and Proto Man from their own concept art, but I did not draw them prior to this. Usually I'll try to do some drawing prior, even if it's just to give myself a better direction. So I'm kind of making up my interpretation on the fly here, but otherwise... It's just a matter of getting into a good flow state. Let me get my reference up here because I don't remember what his scarf is like. It's like more like a bandana. I was making it like a winter scarf. Okay. Do I want his head actually turning that way, or do I want him sort of centered and his eyes leading it? I think probably that. Okay. Don't mind me as I talk out loud to myself, because I think this is going to help to verbalize where I'm coming from as a you know, teacher, as a creator. At this stage, feel free to chime in at any point. Don't let me just talk to myself in lecture unless there's like, there's no pressure to be a quiet student at this stage. Sorry, let me scoot this panel over so I can see chat still. Okay. So yeah, Madara, don't, there are no stupid questions. There are only questions. So, essentially, if, I don't know if you've had to do this in school a whole lot, but when you do an outline, for example, for a paper for school, like, I wrote a book report on something, that kind of outline, it's the same for your plots and your narratives. You know that character starts here, and these are the important points of being there, and then an event happens and more things need to be sort of subdivided or outlined or what have you. So it really is just exactly what Broken Blade said. It's just plot points and twists, a very brief synopsis, very mechanical in its writing. There's no prose, there's no special meaning to anything. It's simply for you to refer to later. Alright, I'm just trying to get that big M on his helmet. There we go. I love that his helmet has these like cool glasses. Very Kamina. I think I'm making a bit of a mistake here by trying to include the helmet in with designing his head. I think I need to make it larger because it's such a big item. There we go. One thing you might notice about my method here is I'm not necessarily sitting and constructing absolutely everything. I really am just trying to get the gist down because the gesture is going to bring me to that point eventually.
I got a question, Gigi.
Yeah, what's up?
Do I have to preemptively know how to draw everything before I start a personal project of mine?
I don't think so. I don't think there's a right time to start most things. I think you just either you do it or you don't. If you have a particular goal of like I need to be able to draw this to do it, that's a different thing. That's like a personal thing. But I don't think you have to really do very much of anything. So I do think that this drive to do it may put you in a position where you have to learn it. And that's not a bad thing. Like I am terrible with architecture and perspective, and I got this job and suddenly like, oh gosh, I have to do architecture and perspective. So I put myself in a position to do it better. I probably would have continued to kind of neglect it otherwise. So if the doing of the thing is its own motivation, then do it.
Makes sense.
So what are you hesitating on?
Nothing in particular. I was just, hang up that I used to have a long time ago where I felt like I needed to understand how to draw every stick and pebble of the idea
Ah, gotcha.
prior to beginning, and then figuring out how to let go of that idea and move past that and just be comfortable with jumping into things without knowing for sure.
I think it really depends on the artist too. Like I said, I know artists who like to pre-plan everything from script to designs. My friend who I mentioned earlier who did the script, she also designed each individual character's horse and their what the castle's going to be like and each of the characters that are going to be the most important. So she has very little room to need to make something up as she goes. It's still going to happen, but she has very good groundwork to go from there. Where other people are a little bit more like, I will design this creature when I get to it, or I will do this when... So it really depends on you. And if you don't know what the answer is, try it. See what happens if you don't have something, because you may find that you prefer to have something. So just by stepping out of your comfort zone and doing the thing that makes you uncomfortable, you're going to find an answer, because either something works or it doesn't. If it works, there you go. And if it doesn't, you now know where to go. You know what questions to ask. It's one of the reasons why I, despite a lot of inexperience on my part when it comes to professional comic and being in this freelance position that I'm in, why I'm happy to stream doing this and to save the information and to share it, aside from the fact that I got the question a lot, is at the bare minimum, I'm giving somebody a jumping off point. And I think that would be great. I would like for you guys to know where to start asking questions, because it'll help you in the end. Even if I'm
for me, it
wrong.
would probably be a mix of the two. I like having some idea of where I'm going, but I also like having a bit of ambiguity so that there's something to find, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Okay, I don't like how big
Thanks.
he is. Absolutely. I'm gonna see a little bit more of his chest too. I actually don't like this design for Proto Man that I'm doing, but I will roll with it for now. This is actually one of the reasons why I think it's a good idea to do some things beforehand. Like, I mean, I definitely designed my main character for my project before I started doing panels or pages. But yeah, this is probably fine. Oh shoot, I need to do a shield. Okay. Okay. I want to tell you guys a secret about perspective. It always feels very daunting because when you are uh, doing it and learning it, there's all these rules about like this is 1 point perspective, this is 2 point perspective, this is how this works. If you don't do it this way, it will look like garbage. It's a lie. It's a lie. You can absolutely make it look like garbage and still do a good job because most people are not architects or Katsuhiro Otomo looking at your work going, I see, you did not follow your 12th orthogonal. You can absolutely just sort of find a vanishing point and get it mostly right. You can cheat it. And I encourage you guys to try this at some point, mostly because it means that it can take away, it can demystify it a little bit, and then it makes making it more right easier to do. I want to banana this a little bit because I think that's cool. So I'm going to. There we go. The more I am doing this panel, the more I'm realizing I can get away with shrinking things inside of it. So I'm going to do that. Yeah, that gives it a little bit more elbow room. It gives me room to add the dialogue that I haven't added in yet, which I should do. Bam. So, there may be a little question of how do I decide the size of my word bubbles. It would actually help if you type out your dialogue and throw it in and work around it. I know I want this here, and I know I want Mega Man to be saying, what is he saying in this panel? Where's my script? Where's my script? There it is. Oh, a very short one. Okay, cool. So I can just pop it probably over here. That I don't like that it kind of is in line with some of the background there, so perhaps in between them, I can scoot him more forward. That's
Have you
not
ever had
too
to
bad.
redesign a panel based on your word bubbles? Like, did the dialogue end up taking up so much room that the scene you had planned would no longer be feasible?
Yes. Yeah, it happens. I think that it will happen less if, oopsies, if I were planning the dialogue earlier on in my page when I was at that point where that happened. That was actually the lesson that I learned in it, but it's still possible that it will happen. I think having the dialogue between them might even be easier to read because it'll lead the eye a little bit and the answer will be there. I can scoot Mega Man more like here. This way he's always in front too, so I don't have to like show him suddenly being in front in the next panel and it just feeling weird. I might be, for comics, a little bit too anal about my placement of characters in relation to the camera. You have a lot of elbow room to just do things. People just jump and teleport constantly in comics, so if it feels like you're doing something wrong, you probably aren't. I know it says a boss door, but I'm just gonna make it look fancy because I'm not trying to actually make this represent Mega Man. I'm just doing this demo.
So that is that sort of in line or similar to that thing with movies where they say you're not supposed to, if a character A is on the left and character B is on the right and they're exchanging dialogue and there's a cut and then you come back to them and they're reversed.
Mm-hmm.
Is that's not so much of an issue for comics?
It's a little less of an issue. I think personally I notice it, but like I said, I'm kind of anal about it. I think that fluidity has many octopus tentacles that you have to be careful of, and a lot of um, people will just sort of ignore certain threads, which in their respect means that they don't have to worry as much. It's a little freeing, I'm sure, but I like to keep track of it because I think it feeds into the type of cinematic storytelling that I like to do, and it also just has some logic to it. Because I think sometimes that teleporting does get distracting, but again, that's I also could just be like super autistic, you know, like I don't know, my peas and carrots are touching and I don't like it. Let's see here. I don't know what Mega Man looks like. Why can't I find my reference? The main thing that makes a difference between film and comics is pacing and time. And what I mean by that is a movie script is meant to be written in a way where one page is 1 minute. So if you have a 24-page script, you can assume that it's probably a 24-minute long short. Where comics, it kind of gets to be a little bit different. I personally think that it should still be page per page, but it depends on the layout and who does it. Because the standards for comics come from, historically, a different place than film, right? Comics were very limited. It used to be that you had to do it all with a very, very short amount of time with a large group of people. And so you couldn't really necessarily worry about the artistry of your pacing. You had to just sort of like, Superman did this thing, and then a reaction happened, and so now he's doing this instead, and then another reaction happened, so now he has to go over here. What's going on over there without him right now? Let's find the plot. And so there's a degree of jumping around that you can get away with because of that history. It's already kind of expected. Where if you read a comic that sort of ignores that and tries to go for cinematic, it tends to feel a little slow, because sometimes you can get caught up in the idea of staying in the same shot for multiple panels. Where and what that would look like would be, let's say I have them talking here, and then they're still talking and they're still next to each other, and maybe they switch positions at some point. So like, let's just say, Y and X, and then Y and X, and then Y, and then they switch sides because they're walking. This is now animation. You don't have to do that unless there's a purpose to do it. So when I said that each panel is one shot, that's basically true. It's all in context of how you want to establish a particular movement or time or whatever, or pacing. And there's a really great book called, I believe it's just called Making Comics. Let me look it up real quick and make sure I've got the right one. It is not the right one, but anything by Scott McCloud is also really good. Making Comic is Storytelling Secrets of Comics, Manga, and Graphic Novels. Scott McCloud from 2006 is fantastic. But there is a different one. I will have to hunt it down, but there's like this textbook that just breaks down comic making and pacing and all sorts of different things, and I'll find it and share it with you guys because I thought it was great. There we go. That's good enough for me. Just double checking into a couple of stream things and just making sure that I'm not leaving anybody. Is it Understanding Comics? I feel like that's Scott McCloud too. Hang on. Yeah, that's also Scott McCloud. He's very like philosophical with his sort of ideas about comics. Full disclosure, I've not read all of his books. And the last time I read, I think it was Making Comics, was a very long time ago. So I cannot tell you how like deep they go into things and how much of it is philosophical versus literal technical. I just remember that they're awesome, and I've met him. He's very nice, and anytime anybody talks about anything comic related in terms of learning, they go to him. These comics were really helpful for a lot of people. It's the same way if you talk to an animator, they're going to tell you to check out Framed Ink and oh my gosh, that Williams book. Hang on. There's overlap. This is important. Animator Survival Kit. That is also like, that's the Bible for animators. And I have sinned for forgetting it. Okay. You will notice that I am flipping my artwork back and forth the entire time that I'm doing this. Do it. Do that. You should do that for all your illustrations and things just to know where things are at. You may also start to piece together now that my perspective is now incorrect. I do feel like the separation between the ground and my characters is wrong enough that it's distracting. It just feels very high up for them. So I can either move my characters or move my ground. I think I'm going to move my ground. But not my horizon line. Yet. I will have to move my horizon line. Okay, yeah, I'll lower it. And my characters. This is one thing I will tell now. Obviously, if I were more comfortable with perspective, I would not be having this issue right now as much. So there are definitely, you know, asterisk caveats to pursuing it as loosely as I mentioned. That looks better. I still don't like how high up that gets, but I think it's mostly because, whoopsies, I keep pressing wrong buttons. I think I just need to make my character smaller because I like the background more than I like them. I want him taller than him. Yeah, okay, that's good. Good enough for me. Alright, I don't think Mega Man has to be looking back. I think looking forward is perfectly fine. Does that work for me? Yeah. Okay. Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Yeah, I'm being silly. I was right the first time. Okay. My horizon line is lower, but my grid is just as stretched. Okay. There are more details I want to place into this, but what I'm looking at right now for this background is primarily the scaffolding, because that establishes the depth of my my room here, and I think it looks really cool to have it kind of bending around towards the big door. The big door that I'm putting a bunch of caution lines on, like it's going to open up. Like I said, for the sake of trying to keep this a little bit more parsed down, I'm not going to research all the assets for Mega Man to make sure I get this absolutely right, because this is just for, you know, for fun. Okay. So this would be something of a jump, having the door behind them still. I still feel like that doesn't quite work. I could probably get away with adding a panel where he, like, opens the door somehow, or, like, maybe it shows the door closed and then opened. Could someone please let me know what the answer was, just in case, what, for the stream. Got that last weekend. Madara, think about could you remind me what the question is, Madara, so that I can answer it again if needed? think I can fix this jump by just having them walking through the door and maybe having Mega Man's hand on the button. Yeah, that's kind of cool. It's actually kind of dramatic too, because this is like the next dialogue in this panel is Mega Man about to explain who Armored Armadillo is, and somebody off panel just saying, "My ears are burning." Like, we know what that means. He heard. Okay. Proto Man looks a little bit awkward here, but it's not the worst thing. Again, I could probably shrink it down. Probably would. I don't know how much I could get away with changing up the panels were I working for a company. Because, in my opinion, I think I could break one of these up into multiple or add one that indicate opening up the door. I just think that that would help it flow a little bit better. But if I was working for a company, I wonder if they would dislike that because it's messing with the already approved script a little bit. Like, how much elbow room do I have to add things? I don't know. It's a question I have for a professional out there. A more experienced professional. The choice of what to put into a panel isn't necessarily always going to be representative of everything described. Sometimes it's the reaction of something described. So, in this one, for example, I could have Mega Man looking at Proto Man as he's saying he was a, what was the line? He was an industrial manager, but it gets cut off before he finishes manager. So, if I have him looking at him, let's pretend like I'm doing that here. I'm looking at you. And then this is said, it feels maybe more like an interruption. I think even more so if I move the bubbles over here. But I like the reaction to, oh, I'm being interrupted, or I'm focused on this thing. So having him looking up and ahead, to me, it speaks to him more. Previously in the script, it's established that he's more experienced with what this world is like. Mega Man X and Proto Man do not exist in the same timeline. In the context of the script is that Proto Man kind of got like Neanderthal frozen and brought back many years later out of his element. So he's just sort of out here, and X is just like, oh geez, now I gotta babysit. Okay, I'm in the middle of a job, I'm doing a thing. So he's frustrated, he's focused, and he's just trying to get through it. So having him looking up and ahead, I think, feeds into that a little better. Whether that's because he's reacting to being interrupted, or if it's because he was already kind of expecting him to be there because this is not his first rodeo. Either way, this would end up being something I could bring up with my writer. So if I were to finish this page, have some pencils done, I could have two versions of this panel and say, hey, listen, here's my thoughts, what do you think? Or, if we're on a deadline, I'll just do one and pick one and then let the writer tell me if it works or not. You don't have to give suggestions every time. Most of the time, it's just, okay, I did an interpretation. If the writer doesn't like it, he will tell me. And if he does like it, he will also likely tell me. That is a terrible Mega Man. I'm gonna roll with it for now, but I do not like that face. I think I am going to shrink them down still. Thank you, Blade. Were I to really sit down and do a Mega Man comic, I would definitely be trying to make it look a lot more Osamu Tezuka. That's kind of where a lot of the inspiration for the artwork, I think, came from. Obviously, it's its own thing pretty much from the get-go, and it's only gotten more and more its own thing. But there's definitely an element to the original character designs. At least for some of the art pretty early on, that's just so round and cute and interesting, and I think Tezuka's definitely got an appearance there as far as inspiration is concerned. Alright, I need to look at my reference. What is his helmet like? He's not the same Mega Man. Oh, he's got eyebrows too. Okay. Alright. I feel like I knew that. His gem's a lot more prominent too. Mega Man X is a totally different guy. With my eyes too close together. Put his nose up. There we go. Bring that down. Yeah, it's already looking a little better. I'm giving him too much of a neck too, and he's got like big old shoulders. Maybe a little bit more of an armored piece here. Still not my favorite, but this is what happens when we don't design first. Like at all. You know, I bet you if I show the door already kind of opening, that'll actually help make this make more sense. Maybe I should make it closer. Yeah. That reads way better. Okay. Alright. Oh, my precious ceiling. I loved it so much. Oh well. You really can't be too materialistic when it comes to doing pages like this. Ah, dang it. I went straight through poor Proto Man's face. I liked that drawing too. That was a mistake on my part. Maybe I can fix that still, actually. I can. Okay, I'm just gonna expand it without that. And yeah, okay. If I shrink these guys down and show more of the door, it'll look a little bit less crowded. Yes, oh my gosh, yes, okay. That feels very empty. And Proto Man has no shoulder things, right? Yep, that's right. Okay. Speaking of Proto Man, anybody in chat listen to the Proto Men at all? For those of you in the text chat, if you don't know, it's a rock band that has a multi-album rock opera based on the mythos of Mega Man. And it's taken at least 10 years for part 3 to come out, and it finally came out. And it's really good. I don't like this head placement. Looks like he's leaning back in a really awkward way. Yeah, Blade, I knew you would. You know, it's what's interesting about the Proto Men is you can't really compare it to the Mega Man mythos and just like say it's like the same word for word, because it is definitely not. They take their own interpretation, they've moved some characters around, they've done a whole bunch of other stuff. And so it's really interesting to see. And despite the way this stream is going and how I'm talking about them, I'm not actually all that fluent in the Mega Man mythos. I've barely played the games. I've played... I don't remember which one I finished, but I've played 2... Definitely 1, 8, and then the first Mega Man X game. It's pretty great. I think that one's my favorite so far. Armored Armadillo has my favorite song though. Just like the blasting the those trumpets at the very beginning of the song is just so good. I used to listen to Mega Man music for my like workouts. Okay, there we go. Artie, welcome. Oh my gosh, it's like I just saw you. I know it says whole body, but I think I can be dramatic enough to just show them. I think that when my partner wrote this, he had this idea of this scene here being a massive establishing shot. At the time he wrote this, though, he was not maybe as aware of comic pages and how that would translate in the script to the page. And I think trying to emphasize this one could be a little difficult, especially when I as the artist, am prioritizing this here, but maybe I ought to rethink that real quick. I'm going to do that. I'm going to take a minute here. I'm going to do that very thing I said happens. If I take this one and bring it low, maybe even... Can I scoot that over? I might be able to scoot that over. Hang on. Madara, I'm not actually sure what question you're referring to. I think I missed it. If you remember what it is, please ask it again so that I can chime in. Let's see if I scoot these over. It's pretty tiny. I don't know. if I scoot some things over on that first panel, that might not work. Obviously, just squishing it's a bad idea. I'm just trying to place it and see what I think. Because if I do that to where this is the panel, and then this is a panel. Oh, uh-oh. Uh-oh, I kind of like this. Hang on. Hold up. Oh, darn. Oh, geez, guys. Okay. So then I would put... Hold up. Here's my blue. Madara said, what kind of... Basically, sort of the same question. How do you draw a panel? Oh, of a fight scene. Okay. Let me wrap up my thought here, and I will address that. Okay. So, I'm gonna just go ahead and put it out there right now. In its own description, scene. It's not one panel. It's the whole thing. You could do, like, a punch or a kick or something. I wouldn't do one illustration to show a fight scene. So let me do, like... Here's my whole armored armadillo, like, rawr. Shrink a link. And then maybe I could put reference because he's got those ears. Or would it be better if I only had the two? But I'm going to be looking down at them because we're looking up at Armored Armadillo because he's big. And it's a nice opposite. And Proto-Man's back here like, he's not so tough. Haha. And then my last panels are the same as what I just put before. Aha! Okay, cool. So the only thing I don't like about this is there's this sort of line that cuts down the whole... Oh, I had that rounded. Whoopsies. Oh well. That cuts down the whole page. I don't love this to that. But it works, so I should do it. How about I break it up by doing halves here? I could, yeah, okay, yeah. Alright, so, let me, so pacing a fight scene. So, when I say that panels are pacing, what that means is that, the more you have something in it, the more you're gonna take time to take it in, right? So, if I have a big long panel with a lot of detail, or even a small panel with a lot of detail, you're going to take the time to take that in. Even if I don't do a ton of detail in this panel here, if it's smaller, it'll take a little less time to look at, so you'll jump to the next thing pretty fast. So with fight scenes, it depends on what you want them to see. And I will save this now, like a smart person. Anybody else in the stream or chat, if you are drawing, maybe save because you're thinking about it now. I've made you aware of it. You should do it. Where's my year? Okay. Comment and okay, saved. Excellent. Good saving. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and kill this out. And I'm gonna open up a new one. And I'm going to make this 11 by 17. Bam. Okay. Oh. Not 11 by 17 pixels. Oops. Change canvas. Oops. Inches, please. I want to be clear that inches only matter if you're planning to print. This is just my favorite way. Okay. So one thing I want to also point out that I did not point out yet, I realize now that I'm talking about this. I like to lay out everything first. And then I want to pencil everything first. All the pages. All the pages up to where I'm stopping. For execution of all things, what I'm doing is essentially layouts and pencils and inks between goalposts when a scene change happens. So it's not the whole book because it's a lot of book, but if it's our hero's introduction to the end of her scenes and we cut to a new area, whether it's whether she's in it next or not, it's a new scene. So that's my chunk of pages to work on. So when you're doing something that has related pages together because you have a scene, I would highly recommend just laying it all out in front of you. So rather than doing it one page at a time, I will have many boxes across the whole thing. So actually, why don't I, instead of doing it this way, why don't I open up one of my templates? I'll do that. Blah, 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 blah. Let's do reanimate and template. Thumbs version 1. How's this? Oh, no. Actually, yeah. Let's do that one. Okay. So here. So these are my layouts for the first 10 pages, right? So I have, this is my base that I'm working with, and then that was a page I'm not going to do. First 2 pages, next 2 pages, next 2 pages, so forth, so on. So on. So what I would do if this was going to be action, let's just say I have triangle guy versus square guy. I'm gonna make a new layer. Okay. The inciting incident. Triangle guy. Is accusing square guy of saying something mean about his mother. Take it back. Huzzah! We're building up tension with the inciting incident. I like big long panels at the top. Sue me. Uh-oh, guys. Rectangle Man. He's doubling down. He does not like Triangle Man's mom. Or he likes him an awful lot. We don't know. He's being very rude, though. The Yo Mama jokes are soaring. Uh-oh, guys. He's ending it with a haughty but wicked retort, like, you don't even know, do you? We've been an item for years. Maybe he's shrugging. Big moment. Big incident. Big movement, let's say, an actual punch. Oh, the sparks are flying, guys. Triangle Man is coming in clutch for his mom's reputation. How about you? Big swing, right? Big punch. And now, guys, I don't know if you knew this. Oh, it's on. It's on. It's so on. I don't like that as our second to last panel. That has to be... In fact, why does this have to be 2 panels? Why not? Let's get... Let's see how low to the ground he is. We're gonna establish where he's coming from. Okay. Alright. So, You will regret this. Maybe we see a little bit of Triangle Man standing over him. Like, now it's on. Okay, cool. So, we can now jump into the next action. Okay. I'm making this up on the fly. This is definitely... Thank you, Blade. Thank you for getting my joke. Thank you. Thank you. I couldn't remember who Triangle Man... Oh, it's Particle! It's Particle Man. Thank you. Okay. So, anyway. Uh-oh, we're getting repetitious. This is the same size and same shape. Okay, I think we can get a little bit different. Let's try... Oh, I want to kick. Script says kick. Because he's on the ground, and Triangle Man is standing over him, and I definitely did a really good job displaying that, and he's not just... That's not a boner. That's not a boner. I promise. That's his butt. That's his butt. Anyway, so we can do a sweep of the legs. You know what? I think that would actually require a larger panel, so let's try... And I think maybe he would have to balance himself with his leg there, or arm up there. Rectangle Man is starting to look a little bit like Powdered Toast Man from Ren and Stimpy. Sweep the legs. Okay. Whew, big motion line. Okay. There's a couple ways I could establish this. I could either do it this way and then show... Whoa! Oh, he's falling, which isn't really a motion that makes sense, but it is fun looking, so I like it enough anyway. And you're like, no, I'm falling. Ah. But what's this? He does like a flip, so maybe... Because if I show more of his back here, I could have him do like... And like a backflip thing. And this would be one of those things where maybe I show like multiple poses of the same character. And then he's like ready here. I don't think that reads all that well because the motion is going from right to left, but I'm reading this from left to right, so I feel like there has to be another way I can establish that. I think it's functional, but I don't think it flows well. So I think I've got to come up with something else that I like better. If somebody else were doing this and they liked it, I think it would read okay, but because I don't like it, my effort putting into it's going to feel a little bit wrong. So, let's try this. If instead of sweeping the leg and it being a whole thing, maybe like a and then we cut to the oopsies, and we cut to leg sweep. There's a foot, that's a knee. Oh no, better yet. Okay, we're gonna switch directions. Action's hard, guys, don't yell at me. I'm gonna switch camera angle. We're gonna look at Rectangle Man going, ha! And maybe his arm's up, and he's holding himself down, and big kick, and then we can see, oh no, Triangle Man, he's falling. And you know what? We're gonna let him fall. Because the falling and landing is a fast motion, the landing, I can get away with making it just like a quick snap, like a oof. So I could cut this up and have something on the other side of him. But I like this sort of quick flash that this gives by zooming in and having him take up the whole space. And because Rectangle Man is doing a really big motion, and I want to show how super strong he is, showing his whole body, or a lot of his body, in a big establishing, like, now we're in it to win it, I could do something with this. I like it. And maybe in this moment, you know what, I can break it up. He looks up. Oh! Rectangle Man is suddenly in front of him, with his fist up. Uh-oh, guys. And this is where he establishes, I have been dating your mom. I wasn't just messing with you. I'm your father. I don't know. This is what the drama is. Triangle Man is very confused because how can a rectangle... It doesn't work. It doesn't work. So this is a very moment-to-moment fight, right? Like, action, reaction, action, reaction, action, reaction. If you were to read something a bit more fast-paced, like Dragon Ball, you might find that it's punch, 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 hit, reaction, punch. It's not a single motion thing. But this is kind of how I would want to get it going, because once I've got something like this down, it'll be easier for me to look at this and go, oh, you know what, this is moving slower, how can I speed this along? So instead of showing that Rectangle Man's about to punch and then punch, how about he's about to punch and then something else happens? A kick. Right to the groin. Oopsies. Haha. That's a foot. That's a foot. I promise that's a foot. And this is groin, and that is leg. We're gonna silhouette it. There's the squash. That's how you know he really got it in there. Oh, wait, no, you'd be funnier? Instead of actually showing the kick? Oof! And then as Triangle Man gets out of there, he's on the floor. Oh, man, oh, not his nuptials. Oh, darn, guys. Oh, owie. He's sad. And he's like, ha, get away. So, it's honestly the thing with fight scenes to me is that they're still choreographed conversations. It's still action reaction. It's A to B, me to me, you to you, whatever. And sometimes those collide into the same things. Like if you have like two characters punching each other at the same time, like it's still a mutual thing. But it's drama. It's just drama. Sometimes it's comedy, but I don't know. That's how I would do it. At this stage in my, choreographed conversation. I want you to believe that this is dramatic. And speedy fast is sometimes the way. I'm sure you've noticed, I favor horizontalness in these pages. Verticalness, I think, needs to be carefully chosen because I think the way that it affects the zigzag of reading is notable. It mostly just comes down to, it's my favorite way, it's my favorite, it's a preference. But any of these, you could probably find some way to make a vertical shift in the panels work. It just kind of depends on what you want. So let's just let's switch it around. Let's see what I can do to make something vertical work. I'm going to erase that whole first page. Vertical, vertical, vertical. You know what? Triangle Man. I disapprove of the thing that you're doing. Maybe he's pointing to us, the viewer. Even as a vertical, I think it could probably work if he's pointing out into a direction, but... Oh, I'm not even showing it. I'm sorry, guys. I want to choose a composition that works with the shape that I'm using, if I know that I want to read over here. And I could stack these two here, and then have a horizontal here, or break it up even further. Maybe it's half and half, and since this is asymmetrical, that half doesn't look too awful. I could even move it way over here, depending on what the point is, and then I could still probably establish the same story with this. So I think one of the frustrating things about all art is that there's so many different ways to do any one thing that it starts to get like, but where do I start then? So going back to what I said earlier, just pick one, just pick one. Pick one and do it, and you'll find out if you like it or you don't. Okay, so it has been basically 2 hours. I think we need to start considering the rest of our days. And before I go, I just want to open up the floor one more time. Thank you guys for letting me ramble and rant. This is a topic I am more than happy to come back to, especially as I get more experienced. Or if there's any other questions, like I don't mind reiterating myself at any time either. If you guys have art questions, just hit me up. But how are you guys thinking, feeling, thoughts, questions, comments, criticisms for the future. I fully intend on making a video on this that's going to be far more well informed. I'm kind of using these live stream things as a way to bounce ideas off and see if I can get a good flow of information rather than rambling like an insane person. Absolutely, Cody. Seriously, like anytime. If anybody ever has questions about art stuff, if you just hit me up, if you want to find a day for like a voice call or something, like I don't mind doing it. Especially since right now I'm working pretty much exclusively freelance, so I can more easily make the time at the moment. But you just gotta let me know. Of course, Madara. Ah, so it's like late dinner time for you, bud. Eat your food. Absolutely. Take care, man. I'm gonna move over to Discord and just make sure I'm not missing out on anybody. It seems not. Okay, cool, cool. All right, so, hit me up. Anybody in the future or even in chat now, if you want to reach out, just, like, if you're not in the in Dan Warren's, Little Wiggly's Discord, Daniel's Danger Room, you can also leave a comment here in the YouTube, in the YouTube on the website, the internet, and I am happy to answer, you know, just hit me up. Okay. You did message DMs earlier. It's just showing off art. Oh, sick, cool, awesome. I'll take a look. Absolutely. And this goes for like anything that's even not comic. Like I'm primarily a character designer. I love illustration. We're talking about inks tomorrow. I'm gonna try to finish some of this page stuff so I've got something to work with. I will have a lot easier time articulating my thoughts with inking because it's something I think about a lot. So, I have a bit more of a grasp on how I want to approach talking to you guys about it. So hit me up, and good night, everybody. Ciao. Thanks for coming.